And if you wouldn't mind turning your, hi, Michelle.
Hi there.
If you wouldn't mind turning your mics off for now. But if you want to talk, turn them right back on. And feel free to text. My preference would be you just turn your mic on and speak, but it's not like a rule. If you prefer to text, that's fine. I don't have a particular agenda today by default because I've got some questions here. Hi, Alexandra.
Hello.
Okay, I'm just going to back up to where we left off, and I'm just going to start grabbing these questions. It looks like Heidi put something in here. Is Heidi here? I don't see her. I'm going to go ahead and answer it anyway, since if she's not here, maybe she'll watch the video. What type of professional should we look for? There's not any particular type. Most mental health hospitals will have a diagnostician on board that can diagnose anything, ADHD, bipolar, developmental disorders, and so on. So any psychiatrist, psychologist, those individuals will have as one of their staff a diagnostician. And that's his or her only job, is to do a battery of tests and diagnose. And any mental health facility will have that. Michelle, with S, I have questions. Would you want to just summarize what you're asking there, Michelle?
I have a hard time knowing when to bring up
Can you turn your mic up a little bit?
Does that work better?
That's fine, thank you.
Okay, I just took my earbuds out. Knowing when to be assertive about what needs to be talked about and when to just not even bother because it literally goes into a complete vortex of insanity. But I've been back and forth in that cycle for just decades. And I've had a hard time knowing what is in the realm of things that he can change and improve, and what do I just need to not expect. And then also just to understand how to live healthily in that, because I feel like I'm either pretending that something's okay that's not okay.
Let's deal with one thing at a time.
Okay.
Because I want to, I mean, you didn't do anything wrong, but I model the stuff that I'm trying to teach you guys as I'm teaching it. And one of our mottos, I'm just making this up, never called it a motto before, is, but I'm calling it now, no data dumping. Mm-hmm. You didn't do anything wrong, Michelle. You have to talk to me like that. Mm-hmm. But I am backtracking and use this as a moment to illustrate this is not what you want to do with him. Right. Oh, well, we have this, I'm being sarcastic now. Well, I want to do this, and also that. And then the other thing is blah, blah, blah. You've already lost him back there on question 1. Okay. Okay. So question 1 was a great question, by the way. I have no idea what the answer is, but we'll figure something out here. It was basically, what's the difference between stuff that you have to accept that is a kind of a hardwired trait versus some of the things that might be changeable or at least mitigated somewhat. And so that's a great question. And the answer is, and for those that have been in other groups with me, I almost feel like I have to apologize to Michelle Prinsloo and Michelle Williams, and I think Katrina, you were in the couples group, aren't you? So I almost have to apologize to those who were in the other group because it's going to be like a repeat performance. Michelle Schiller hasn't heard this information, so I'll keep it short. Hi, Heidi. So here's the thing, Michelle. This doesn't really answer your question because I could spend a whole nother 2 hours just on this. Mind blindness issues, alexithymia issues, and executive function issues. I'm going to describe those super briefly. Mind blindness is, I have a hard time, what's your husband's name, Michelle?
Peter.
Peter?
Yes.
As Peter, I would have a hard time knowing what you might be thinking in any given moment. And so therefore your behavior and your opinions make no sense to me. And alexithymia is Mind blindness is the cognitive piece. Alexithymia is the emotions piece. So you think of alexithymia as emotions blindness. And so therefore I don't understand why you feel certain ways about stuff. I'm out of touch with how I feel. I'm out of touch with you, how you feel. And when you tell me how you feel, you're just speaking German. And then the executive function business. I'm gonna mute your mic, Michelle. The executive function business, that could be damn near anything, but this will only take me less than 30 seconds. And I'm going to grab, just so you'll know what the hell we're talking about here with executive functions. And I'll speak briefly about this. I'm just going to copy and paste them in the notes over here. If they don't show up for you now, they will be in this message area when we sign off later. So there is abstract thinking, and that's the inability to, in large part, this is where if he doesn't understand your body language or your facial cues or your wordage or your tone of voice changes when you're upset, the volume of your voice changes when you're upset, the wordage that you use changes when you're upset, he's going to be blind to all of that. Emotional control, if you can see what's over here on the sidebar with these, when you run into shutdowns and meltdowns, that's that business. Multitasking speaks for itself, so does planning and organizing. Shifting focus, if you have interrupted him when he's busy doing something, hey, well, I want to talk to you about such and such, you may have met resistance there. So those are, I don't know how many we have there, 1, 2, 3, 6 or 7. So that long way around the bush to answer your question, and that is in large part the mind blindness stuff. If you need more information on that, just let me know. I can send you more information. Same thing with alexithymia and executive functions. Those 3 things right there are pretty much hardwired, although even there's even those things are somewhat fluid depending on the individual. And keep in mind, Michelle, that there's the autism spectrum, right? But if we go over here to the high functioning end of autism, there's even a smaller spectrum. So in other words, we have people that are high functioning and moderately high functioning and low high functioning. So the DSM has categorized these in just 3 levels, but they really should be subdivided on the high end. They should be subdivided even more, because I see people that are so high functioning that they would pass for a neurotypical. Nobody would know if they didn't tell them. But I've also seen people that are, quote, high functioning, and they're not so high functioning. Terrible social skills, terrible emotion regulation problems, terrible attention problems, and so on. So it would depend, Michelle, on the severity of Peter's symptoms, because even on the high functioning end, there's a huge range there. More information than maybe you wanted. I don't know how to answer it any different than that. Hi, Margaret. I can go into more of that if you want to know exactly what some of these things look like. Did you mention, Michelle, didn't you mention something in here about parenting?
Yeah, that's a huge question, I thought, about parenting, especially now that they're teenagers. It's been really difficult.
Okay, so let's move on to the second part of your question. Is that about the parenting stuff?
Sure. Sorry about my parakeet. At this point, I will legitimately enforce criteria, expectations, consequences, and if I try to do that, I am
I lost you, Michelle. I lost you verbally. Hi, bro. Can you get closer? Can you change microphones or do something different? Because
Okay.
Okay, that's better. I got you up until about 2 seconds ago.
Okay. I'm I don't need to say the whole thing over again, do I?
No, I pretty much understand what you're saying. So one of the things was, what's the difference? How can I tell the difference between personality and some of the traits?
Right.
Yeah, you can't.
Okay.
That's like saying I'm cooking vegetable soup and it has peas, carrots, broccoli, beans, onions, mushrooms, and then you walk in the room and you smell the aroma of the soup and you go, wonder which one of those vegetables I'm smelling. Am I smelling the peas or the carrots? You're smelling the combination thereof. And so when you're experiencing his behavior, there is a personality factor involved, and there are some Asperger's traits involved, but they've merged. And so there's not going to be some behavior that's purely personality and then other behavior that's purely Asperger's. All behavior is going to be a combination of the two. Does that make sense? Why do you need to know the answer to that question?
I'm just trying to understand what to, well, maybe it's the same thing, but we've had conversations in this group before about not supporting the behaviors that can be changed. And so I kind of wanted to try to see if I can separate those out, or just how I can even just strategize to be parenting as a partner.
Is he not even willing to have the conversation about parenting?
He'll have the conversation, but then, and he'll even, we've even put things in writing, but then when it comes to the moment, and we
Okay,
can't.
so we'll start small. So this is good, assuming that he would be willing to have a short conversation. I'm not talking 2 minutes, but I'm not talking 2 hours either. That might be one problem that you're running into, is maybe these conversations are going on too long, and you're also dragging too much stuff into the conversation. You wouldn't be doing that now, would you, Michelle? I'm being sarcastic. So one issue at a time, and here's your first one. This is one conversation here. Can you see that? Yeah. That's the only topic for that first conversation. What is the specific child-rearing issue that is causing disagreement between the two of you? You may already know that. Whatever it is, it would be great if you would write it down. If that conversation takes 2 minutes, then you're done for the day on this issue of parenting. Then you're going to pick another time. And by the way, these conversations need to be short. So let's say you're willing to come back to the table and discuss things again the next day in my little theoretical world here. Single conversation, single topic. What are the feelings and beliefs that each parent has about the issue that may be rooted in childhood family history? Because he's probably not being a team player with you. I'm guessing, you correct me if I'm wrong, because he was parented different than you. And so your ideas are based on your own childhood. And parents usually do one of two things. They either hate how they were parented and do the opposite, or they were pretty much okay with how things went for the most part, and they basically duplicate what their parents did for the most part. That's conversation number 2, day number 2. You with me so far? Because I'm thinking that one of the reasons these conversations don't yield anything is because they're too long and too complicated. And then the third one, and this is just for starters, we can elaborate on this more later, but I'm going to practice what I preach. I'm going to keep it to 3 points. What problem-solving alternatives can each of you commit to that will resolve the disagreement and unite both parents in adapting the beliefs and practices of your families of origin to your family life today? So you are tying it into how he was parented, and you're tying it into how you were parented, and you're kind of comparing notes. And the last thing I want to say, and this is super important, Michelle, a weaker parenting plan supported by both of you is going to be infinitely better than only one parenting plan supported by one parent, because that's a fail. Better to have a weak 50% plan where both of you are a united front than a 99% plan where the other parent's totally off the board with it. You have to have 2 wings to fly a plane. So if you have one perfect wing and one failed wing, you ain't going anywhere. I think that's all I want to tackle with that today. Because I want to model for you, keep it simple and be persistent. Keep it simple and be persistent. We'll do a little bit now, we'll do a little bit later, then we'll do a little bit there, a little bit. You get a cumulative effect going on here. Ellen says, I think Michelle alluded to something that I struggle with. I don't know how to handle him telling me he will do one thing and then deciding to do something else instead. Ellen, you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I thought she was about to say with the parenting thing that they had talked about doing something with the kids and then he decided not to do it. And sometimes I have that with the kids, but it seems to be almost every day with just little tiny things like don't leave your shoes in the doorway, for example. And then the next day, the shoes are in the doorway. Just, it happens with bigger things too, but just all the time with all these little things. And
okay, well, you just said a
sometimes
mouthful there. You just said a mouthful.
sorry.
You said all of these little things. So we're kind of back to the same conversation, similar anyway, that we just had with Michelle. How many rules do you have, Ellen?
Well, I would like to have just the one rule where if you say you'll do something, you do it.
That's too vague. We talking about a man who is on the autism spectrum, or at least suspected?
Yeah.
Okay, you can't be vague like that. You have to be super concrete. Pretend like you're
So
talking to an 8-year-old. Pretend like you're talking to an 8-year-old.
So even though he tells me he will do something, I can't expect him to do it.
Can you give me an example where he said, "Yeah, I'll do it," and doesn't do it?
Well, like putting the shoes in the middle of the doorway instead of off to one side. It's a small example.
Okay. So how many rules does he have that he's supposed to abide by?
Well, I don't know.
Well, I'm not asking for an exact number. Is it 1 or 2, or is it 10 or 12?
Well, it's probably 10 or 12.
Okay. Too many. So now we're down to the pick your battles carefully, which is of that 12, and I know this is, I'm not pinpointing. I know you don't know the exact number and all of that, but we're just kind of investigating. Of the approximate 10 to 12, which is the one that seems to be the most important?
Well, I don't know, because I get overwhelmed with the sheer number of things he tells me he will do and then not do. So you think the problem is that in his mind, there's just too many things, and so even though he tells me he will do them, he's not.
He tells you he will do them because there's too many things, and he doesn't know. He's not paying attention to what he's supposed to do when, and he's just trying to get you off his back. Yeah, sure, honey, I'll do it. Just to get you to stop talking about it.
Well, sometimes it's even stuff that.
The reason that goes on is because he's never had the thought. I'm sure he's never had the thought, Ellen, gosh, there's just too many rules. I don't think he had that thought, but I think if there's not a smaller number of rules that are memorizable, you'll just keep chasing your tail because he's not. So there certainly needs to be some rules, but I'm just going to make up some numbers. You say there's 10 to 12. I would pick the top 5 and let the others go. You have bigger fish to fry than worrying about shoes being in wherever they're at. If you're not willing to pick your battles carefully and you just want to fight every battle, then that's your choice.
No, that makes sense. I hadn't thought about it that way because I was thinking of it as one rule: just do what you say you're going to do.
That's vague as hell. I'm not trying to chastise you, but I am telling you you're going to have to be super concrete.
Okay, so does the same apply to, like, if he tells me something, not something that I've asked for, not a rule, he'll also, like, tell me he's going to do things. Like, he just bought a new phone because our landline was going kaput. And he called me on the phone because I was at my mom's house, and he said, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to buy this phone. And I get home, and the phone arrives, and it's this completely different model. So I don't understand why he would tell me he's going to do something and then not do what he says he's going to do.
Can you give me another example of where he approaches you and says he's going to do something and then doesn't follow through?
I don't know. I can't think of anything right now.
Well, okay, that's all right. I don't want to pressure you. Well, given that limited amount of information, my best guess is he's saying that to please you at some level.
Well, okay, that makes sense.
It's more of a, if I tell her this, it'll make her happy. That's my best, that's just a guess at this point, without talking to him specifically or having more information about it. It may just be, is he kind of a people pleaser in general?
Yes. Especially a me pleaser. He's constantly telling me that he just wants to make me happy.
There you go.
So, do you have any advice on how to get him to stop? I'm like, just don't say anything if you're going to change what you decide to do.
Yeah. Well, next time he says, "Well, I'm gonna go do that," why don't you just tell him what I said? Something. So don't tell him it came from me. You could say something along the lines of, "Well, honey, I appreciate that you have plans to do that, but if you're going to do that, you do it for your benefit. Don't necessarily do it for my benefit. You don't need to do this to make me happy."
Okay. Okay, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Does anybody else have? Let's see. Gloria says, do you have any suggestions on how to create more intimacy or emotional intimacy with our partners? Well, just bear in mind that Georgia, with the autistic brain, he's more task oriented than he, and so therefore his social needs are low, his emotional needs are low. He just simply doesn't need to be doing a lot of socializing or talking about feelings or investigating how he feels, how other people feel. That's not his cup of tea at all. His cup of tea is logic, facts, figures, completing tasks. And you certainly want intimacy and emotional reciprocity. And as your husband, he's required to follow through with those things. But just bear in mind, he's not going to be good at it. And he's not even necessarily going to enjoy it much. But he also needs to know that he needs to do that whether he enjoys it or not. So that would be a conversation I would have with him, is that she is going, I know intimacy. Georgia, what's your husband's name?
Martin.
So I would say, Martin, I know that emotional reciprocity is not your favorite hobby, but it is one of George's favorite hobbies. And if she's given you the luxury of allowing you to engage in your hobby, then you need to afford her the luxury of her being able to engage in her hobby, which includes you, Martin. You don't need Georgia. Let's say, for example, his special interest is computers. You don't need Georgia to get your computer fix, but she needs you to get her intimacy fix. So that would be a conversation I would have with him. Maybe you could repeat something similar to that to him.
I can say that he's totally willing to understand and to give his present. Our relationship in the moment has no conflicts. It's going. Mm-hmm. But for me, it's a little bit flat, and I'm not sure if I also lost the ability to understand what I exactly need or how to explain what I need. Because I understand what you say, having the conversation. If I have the conversation, we are also doing couple therapy at the moment. Mm-hmm. And he's totally willing to give. He's hugging me when I'm low. He's giving a nice word when I'm in need. It's totally fine. But it's missing something which I cannot even anymore explain how. So what I'm looking for is really some tips on how to, mm-hmm. because I really don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know if you can explain.
I understand what you're saying. So let me make sure I understand what you're saying. So you're saying he will do some things, but it still comes off as kind of artificial?
Yeah, and also for me, it's difficult to explain at the moment what I would like. So I wonder, maybe there is a tip, a game, or I don't know what.
Yeah, so we're kind of back to the similar conversation we had with, I forget who it was now. I think it was Ellen. Be concrete. So when I say concrete, here's something that may help you with this business, because be concrete, that's vague. And I'm really against vagueness with these guys. So if I say, Georgia, just be concrete when you talk to him, what the hell does that mean? So here's one thing that helps some people. And this will help you be concrete. You need to tell Martin, or ask Martin, if you want to make it more tactful, you need to be very concrete and specific about what you need in the way of intimacy. Okay, so there's that piece. Now, how do you deliver that message by being concrete? You answer this question, and this is not a rhetorical question. I want the answer to this question. If I were to videotape, here's your thought, Giorgio. If I were to videotape Martin providing the intimacy that I desire, what would I see? And if you can't answer that question, then you've got to go back to the blackboard and figure out what the answer to the question is. Otherwise, you're only going to be talking to him in terms of vagueness. He's not going to know. So I'm going to ask it again. If I were to video record Martin providing you with appropriate amount of intimacy as you define appropriate, what exactly would I see?
Difficult for me to answer.
Okay.
Because somehow I feel also our relationship is going so flat. It was so focused on contain the conflict somehow that now that the conflict is contained, it's flat, and I cannot go out of this flatness myself. I cannot. It seems like I cannot see Anders. Anders, it's Deutsch. Sorry.
Okay. So
in another way.
I don't want to pressure you into coming up with a question, but I do want to, if I can be so bold as to kind of give you an assignment. I would like for you to sometime over the course of the next week to be thinking, to be coming up with some answers to that question. And again, the question is, and I'm sorry to be redundant, if I were to video record Martin providing adequate intimacy, as I define adequate intimacy, what specifically would I see? If we were going to make a movie of Martin providing intimacy, what would be in that movie? So entertain that question if you would, Georgia, and then we can talk about it next time.
Thank you.
Hopefully you will have. And if you still struggle, next time we meet, maybe we'll come up with some suggestions for you.
Thank you. That's very appreciated.
And then when you get the answer to the question of what would I see if I video recorded him, that's the message you need to give him. What I need from you is to do this, a little bit of that, and some of the other. That was 4 things. I wouldn't go more than 5. And you're giving him very concrete, specific behavioral things that he can do.
This is connected, sorry, and then I stop to another question that I remember I asked you some time ago about consistency. And it's because we also did some couple therapy, and we had some assignments, homework to do, and it worked perfectly for a couple of weeks. And then, bloop, 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 we lost it. And this is connected, I think, with this flatness and this difficulty to continue to feel intensity and to feel emotions, because everything feels so a little bit tiring. I think for both, because I can see it's difficult for him to maintain. It's difficult for me to focus and say all the time what I need. And so I feel like sometimes we settled in this flatness, and I don't know how to move out of it.
So we talked about this yesterday in the couples group, so I'm apologizing for repeating information. But if Martin has ASD, he has this thing called alexithymia, which means that he's not in touch with how he feels or how other people feel. And so this whole business of connecting intimacy-wise, which is that's a bunch of emotions stuff there. That's all Greek to him. And he may step up to the plate and do well for a while, and then you'll notice that he starts drifting off and he's not quite following through like he did when you first started this business, he doesn't know, Georgia, that he's drifting off. He doesn't know that the intimacy, even though it may not be established to the point that you really wanted, at least it was better than nothing. It was something. And when it starts to fizzle out, he doesn't know it's fizzling out because of the alexithymia business. So you're going to have to be the compassionate coach and remind him, and it could just be a catchphrase. And we're back to this business of you telling him what you need. Martin, I need for us, remember when we started doing these things last month and we were going pretty good for a few weeks? I need to go back and do those things again because we kind of lost our way. And some guys prefer like a code word, like intimacy check. I don't know, anything would work. So he's not going to know he's drifting away. He's not doing it on purpose. And he will drift. It's exactly like trying to walk up a down escalator. If you don't walk slightly faster than the escalator, and especially if you stop walking altogether, you just sink right back to the bottom. And he will always be walking up an escalator, a down escalator. And when he stops stepping and he starts going back down to the ground floor, you need to catch him early and say, hey, we're kind of losing our way. Let's go back to what we were doing originally when we were actually, talking and following through with some strategies and whatnot.
Thank you.
Mark, I appreciate your suggestion for making things concrete. However, when he takes this as a checklist and just ticks things off the list that I've spelled out, that's just going through the motions. Can you give me an example, Michelle?
Well, he tends to focus much more, as you said, he's very task-oriented. So he focuses on, well, you said to do this, so I did it. And once he's done doing that, he's like, okay, I'm done. It doesn't continue, and I constantly have to remind it, and so it feels to me like it's just, it's empty.
Okay, we're back to the similar conversation again. Reminds me of Ellen when you may have too many rules. You have to pick your top 5, pick your battles carefully. So now we're the same conversation with you, Michelle. In an ideal world, and I know I make it sound easier than it is, you would want to have a small set of the most important chores he is to complete. And let's see, you said, do you write these? He takes this as a checklist. Is it written down with a timetable? I don't hear you. Turn your mic on.
Sorry.
That's
They
okay.
are, please sit down instead of standing in the doorway. Please make eye contact with me, and please say hello first thing when you walk in the door. Those are the 3 rules that I have asked for for the past decade, and he cannot do those 3 things. So
What were they again?
Make eye contact with me when we're talking.
Do you know how difficult it is for an ASD man to make eye contact with anybody?
No.
You don't.
No. But
Yeah.
I would say that.
It's very difficult, and I could speak to that in detail, but I don't want to chew up the time with that. Just take my word for it. Or I can send you more information on that. Eye contact is very difficult for people with autism because they're a visual learner in a verbal world. So when they're looking at you and in the eyes, it's also hard for them to multitask. I know that sounds ridiculous. You're thinking, I can look somebody in the eyes and listen to them and talk to them at the same time. Yeah, he struggles with that because he's a visual learner in a verbal world. And so when he is visually looking at you in the eye, he's so distracted with your eyes, he's not retaining your verbal delivery. To ask him, I know your intentions were good, to ask him to look you in the eyes, and I'm exaggerating here. It's a little bit like me asking you to look in the barrel of this gun as I pull the trigger and let's hope a bullet doesn't come out. There's only one in there, and hopefully this isn't the one this is a 6-shooter, and maybe this bullet won't come out. Maybe it'll be one of the empty chambers. That's an exaggeration. What was the second one, Michelle? One of your rules?
Sit down when we're talking instead of standing in the doorway like you can't wait to leave.
Okay. I don't want to pick you apart too much here. And so please forgive me if it sounds like I'm just making up excuses for him. But I'm back to this business of picking your battles carefully. If he's more willing to talk to you standing up, and he doesn't want to sit down and talk, I'll just tell you point blank, I would just go with what you got. And I'm going to be sarcastic here, am I going to split hairs so much that A, I want us to talk, and B, we have to sit down to talk? So you probably have bigger fish to fry than him sitting down while you're talking. And if he will stand and talk, that's fine. Now, if he refuses to talk, well, that's a whole nother ballgame. And that's a whole nother conversation. But if he's willing to talk, even though he's standing, it might be less intimidating for him. I'm sure it is to talk while he's standing. And I know it just sounds like I'm just making excuses for him. What was the third one?
That was just simply say hello to me first when you walk in the door, which actually would include eye contact, like come and look at me and say hello.
I think that's fine. You're not asking him to stare at you. You're asking him to look in your eyes for a brief moment and say hi to you before he just bypasses you and moves on. That's perfectly reasonable. He doesn't do that.
He can't remember to do it more than one day in a row.
Okay, so we're back to this. We're back to this business of being a compassionate coach. I forget who it was. Georgia. I said, Georgia, when Martin starts drifting away, he doesn't know he's doing it. He's not having the thought, oh, I'm so sick of talking to Georgia. This intimacy stuff is killing me. No, he's not having that thought. He doesn't know that he's fizzling out. So in the same way, Michelle, with, is it Peter? You would think that he could remember these things, wouldn't you? It's not on his radar. Social, emotional stuff is not on his radar. And it never is on his radar. It's not even on the back burner. It ain't even on the oven, period. So in the same way that George is going to have to remind Martin, hey, we're slipping a little bit here. Let's get back to where we were. And Georgia will correct me if I'm wrong. I'm guessing Martin would go, oh, I didn't know. I'm glad you told me. In the same way, and I know it kind of cheapens the thing for you, Michelle. Like, God, if I got to tell him every time, it's not authentic and doesn't seem genuine, and I have to keep remembering to tell him. So a compassionate coach doesn't necessarily mean you have to give him verbal reminders. I'm just going to make something up. It may be ridiculous, might work, might not. Maybe put a smiley face on the doorknob. A smiley face sticker. I know it sounds ridiculous. Put a smiley face sticker on the doorknob, so when he reaches for the doorknob, because he has to reach for the doorknob to open the damn door, he sees the sticker. He goes, oh, that's my cue when I get on the other side of this door to look Michelle in the eyes and say, hi, how are you, honey? And if that cue loses its magic, you come up with the second one. Because I could see you making the argument, and justifiably so. Well, if I do that after 1 week, he'll forget the sticker's even on there. Well, then you come up with a different reminder. You may have to freshen up the reminders every once in a while. Give it a shot and let us know how it goes. I don't think he's purposely trying to ignore you. It's just not on his agenda. These social connection things, and it is kind of a shame. And it does seem ridiculous that is it that difficult to remember just to do that one thing? Is your life that complicated, and you have so much stuff in your brain that you don't even have room for that one little piece of data? It does seem ridiculous. I totally get that. Gloria Ann, do John Gottman's recommendations for couples apply to NTSD couples? I'm not real super familiar with that. Ma, if you have a chance, what do you talk about handling mind blindness and setting boundaries unless I am super strategic, which feels manipulative? He seems to experience assertiveness as criticism. So, Ma, where are you at?
I'm here.
Feels manipulative to you or him?
Feels manipulative to me. So I picked up your strategy of showing appreciation, and I do it like a real strong point of it, and it's changed our life 180 degrees,
Mm-hmm.
which was stunning to me. I mean, it was magic bullets don't exist, but this was a magic bullet.
Mm-hmm.
So that is good, but he's just so hypersensitive, which if it were just me, okay, but I have teens and tweens, and they tend to have strong meanings or strong opinions, and I have one that's probably on the spectrum,
Mm-hmm.
which, you can imagine the conflict that happens. So
Okay. Would you want to have one little small extra task that falls in the category of being compassionate coach?
that is okay. Go. Yep.
And I know you're not going to always be able to predict this, but I think you probably would have a good idea of when you say something, or maybe you don't. Let me put it like this. Do you have a fairly good grip on what might trigger his "you're criticizing me" button?
Oh yeah. Add garlic on the shopping
So
list. Everything.
when you deliver your message and you have the thought, oh God, that's probably one of these things he's going to download as criticism. Here's the compassionate coach piece. It only takes like 3 seconds. But before I give you that piece, let me ask you another one. Does he recognize that he tends to put some of your neutral stuff in the criticism category?
I don't. I think he recognizes like a day later.
Okay, that's good enough. So he does know that he can err on that side.
I suspect so. I don't think he would verbalize it,
Okay.
but I'm pretty sure he knows he's very sensitive.
So I want you to do I'm just going to make up a term. He filters certain things. Your words come out of your mouth, it goes into his head, and it goes through a filter before it goes out of your mouth through his ears, and then it goes through a filter before it reaches his prefrontal cortex. So he filters what you say. And so I'm just going to make up a term. I'm going to call it a filter check. You can even call it that. You deliver your message. What's your husband's name?
David.
So you deliver your message, David, blah, 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 blah. And can we do a filter check? How did you take what I just said? So that little line that I just repeated there took 3 seconds. And here it is again. You're going to deliver your message, blah, 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 blah. I'll word it slightly different. You can word it however you want. Blah, 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 blah. David, is this one of these things that you might perceive as being critical?
Yep, I'm all for trying the other thing.
And then he's either going to say, no, I don't see it. Or he's going to say, yeah, I kind of took that as criticism. Then you can set him straight. No, honey, it wasn't being critical. I was saying it. And you give him your true motivation for saying it, because he's filtered it that your motivations were malicious for saying it. And if you check in with him, did that sound critical? Yeah, kind of did. Then now you have an opportunity to go back and rewind and let him know that your intentions, your motivation, none of it was malicious, and you can let him know what your real intent was.
So the alexithymia is feelings, which is different than the cognitive bit. So in theory, if I do this, then he wouldn't feel hurt and then take it out on us later. I can try it. It's a good idea.
Yeah, in an ideal world, in my little magical world of imagination and brainstorming, and the best we can do is try it. And we may try 9 things, we may try 10 things, and only one thing works. Okay, well, that's more than we had before. So give it a shot and let us know what happens.
Okay, thanks.
Katrina says, Sometimes we're talking in depth. It's easier for Kent to stand, even though I would like him to sit with me too. I understand it can feel disconnecting. Yeah, totally. I totally validate that, Katrina, that Michelle feels like it is kind of a disconnection when he's standing. Doesn't seem very personal. But if he's willing to go deeper into the conversation when he's standing than sitting, it's worth standing. Okay, so any other questions? Vicki, Margaret, Brooke, Heidi?
I put a question on there. I'm not sure if you're not seeing it.
You did? Okay, let me find it. Or you want to just tell me what it is?
Yeah, so I wondered, and I came in a little bit late, but you were talking about rules at the time. And I was curious, you mentioned, like you have the top 5 big ones or whatever. I have one that is really hard right now. And I'm wondering the best way to talk to him about like how to approach it in a way where he's not going to take it as critical and, he can open up about it to see if I can do that.
What is it?
He's overly honest with my daughter in a way that is not age appropriate.
Would you be comfortable giving us an example? We're all grown-ups here.
So she's only 5. And he has the belief, or maybe he's using it as an excuse to kind of mask or something, I don't know. But he has the belief that any question that she asks, if she's old enough to ask it, she's old enough to hear an answer, an honest answer. And so, she'll ask things like, I mean, just the obvious ones, where do babies come from? And he starts telling her about everything, and I'm just like, she's 5, He was telling her about menstruation and just stuff, and inappropriate relationship stuff between mom and dad that, you just don't talk to your kid about.
What's an example of inappropriate stuff between mom and dad?
If there's a disagreement between us, he'll start talking to her about the disagreement and things, whereas you just don't, that's involving your kid in a way, in something. So, she'll ask, well, why didn't we go back to California for break or something? And well, it's because mommy said we can't because of the pandemic. And it's, well, why did she? We can't. Stuff like
Brooke,
that. He's very.
Okay, well, Brooke, I'm not going to tell you how to parent your daughter. This is my opinion, and I would be interested in hearing the opinions of some other ladies, quite honestly. Everything you just said, I don't have a problem with. It's good that she learns about some of these things from him, because now she is. Why are you shaking your head no?
No.
Okay, let me finish. It's good that if what you just told me is what's going on, there's nothing wrong with her learning about sex. And for him to then also comment to her about disagreements between you, she needs to see these arguments, because it's going to help her know how to engage in conflict resolution with her husband. You don't want to shield. I'm not saying you want to give them every nitty gritty detail. Don't get me wrong, but it's good that she is seeing the two of you resolving conflict, because she needs to learn that stuff. It's good that the dad is providing her with some sex education, assuming that it's mostly appropriate, because it's better than wondering. It's better than getting it from somebody else. So you tell me why you think that that's not such a great idea.
So you've heard a couple examples, and I can't pull them up, immediately when we're talking, but trust me when I say it's inappropriate stuff.
Okay, would he be open? Would you be able to, let's try this on for size. Would you be able to compromise a little bit, and that would look like this? And maybe he's not even willing to have this conversation, and even if he is, maybe you wouldn't follow through. Can you have some stuff that goes in the category of, it's not the conversation I wish he would have with her, but I can tolerate it. And then there's another category of, this should never be discussed with her, period. So instead of just throwing everything into the, well, you don't talk to her about any of this stuff, it's really a problem. We're back to the picking your battles carefully thing. There's some of the things that he says to her that you would prefer he does not, that are probably fairly harmless things. I'm sure 100% of the stuff that he says to her that you don't approve of doesn't fall into that's harmful to her. Some of it does, perhaps. So would it be possible for you to have, first of all, have a clear idea of the stuff that is harmful and it's not fair game for discussion or dad-daughter conversation? And then also have other things that you don't like and you don't approve of, it makes you uncomfortable, but it's not doing any damage, and let him do those things. What's your thoughts on that?
I feel that's basically what I do. I see a therapist on a regular basis, and she's gotten concerned to the point of wanting to step in at certain points.
Mm-hmm.
So I really choose my battles. I get pushed, I allow to be pushed to my limit on things. Okay. And then there are things where I just have to put my foot down because it's my daughter and I have to protect my daughter.
Okay. So if you want to really put your foot down, you're the one that used that phrase, not me. If you really want to put your foot down, then you really have to put your foot down and not just talk about it. If I were to videotape you putting your foot down, it would be a hard line drawn in the sand, and there would be a stiff consequence for him not following through with that line that you drew in the sand. As in, I may just report you to Child Protective Services. So don't act tough, Brooke, but then not really want to be tough, because he'll just know you're blowing smoke and it won't change a damn thing. If you're going to put your foot down, you really have to put your foot down.
What I think is happening is he can't tell what's appropriate and inappropriate to talk to her about.
You're going to have to be a compassionate coach. Write it down. These things here, you do not talk to her about. If you do, there's going to be a consequence and you ain't going to like it. You're the one that used it to put your foot down. If you're going to talk the talk, you need to walk the walk. Write it down. These things are off the table. You do not talk to her about these things. If you do, I'm going to do this. It's still not on, huh? There you go.
There is it. Okay. I just wanted to say to the last speaker, I also have a 5-year-old. And for me, it's more like lack of coordination. I don't feel there's inappropriateness, but there's a lack of coordination in everyday living. So our sleeping arrangements, our eating arrangements, just the basics are so chaotic. And I'm always feeling like I can't get my head above water. It's just the day-to-day living. And my husband has refused to work for 14 years. So theoretically, he's available at all times, but he vanishes. I mean, we have a lot of secret, I don't know anything about our money. And then like he mentioned the other day that, oh, I haven't paid the bills for the water and electric in many months, so they might be cut off. So there's these things that happen that just take my breath away. And I'm wondering, my question for Mark is about self-care. Like I rented my own place and I'm up here right now. This is the first time I have my 5-year-old with me and we're here and it's very peaceful. but I'm being tested for late onset type 1 diabetes today. I've had increasing health problems that I can no longer ignore, related, I feel, strongly related to the stress of this relationship.
Strongly related. It's an understatement.
Yeah.
All your illnesses are directly anxiety related.
So I rented this place, woke up. I've had it's definitely not a clean break. We've only spent one night here with the kids, and
and there never is a clean break, but you're working on it.
I threw in the towel one night because it was so chaotic and so noisy. So I said, I'm going up to my house by myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I fully intended to just have a night by myself. And he called to check on me. And then he brought the kids off and dumped them on me, which was fine. We had a great night.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't count on anything. I woke up the other day and we were in the big house, and I woke up and he was gone.
Mm-hmm.
And I later kind of pried it out of him. He was climbing a mountain by himself. And then he came home. We only saw each other for a short time. And I said something related to money. And he disappeared, squealed off in his truck. And I have no idea, is it going to be one night? Is he going to be home later?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes he comes home, like the other day he came home and unexpectedly, and I had told the kids, I'm going to go run around the block and blow off some steam. I'll be back, stick to your iPad and I'll be right back. And he comes home and then he says, oh, you left the children unattended. Very threatening. There's always these kind of, I'm going to try to catch you out.
So are you in the process of
I cannot figure out how to get this divorce done because I keep collapsing.
Okay. Are you in the process of doing that?
I just collapsed again. We had mediation set up and he abandoned us for 3 weeks. He came back and I said, I haven't had a break and I haven't checked my email in 3 weeks.
I'm going to have to cut you off.
Yep.
Because this is the third time I've listened to this.
Yep.
Not that you've done anything wrong. I want you to talk to me about it. But you lost him a long time ago. You've got to move on. It's very rare for me to say get rid of his ass. I'm saying it. You got to get rid of his ass as soon as possible because you're in danger. You cannot count on him and you're trying to predict the unpredictable and you're driving yourself fucking crazy doing it. Stop it. You're not going to be able to predict somebody who is unpredictable.
Yep.
You're trying to, I'm sorry to, sometimes I cuss purely for dramatic emphasis. You have got to stop that because you're already sick.
Yeah.
So you're trying to predict the unpredictable. And that is making you crazy.
Yeah.
With a capital C. And I'm not exaggerating. You're losing your goddamn mind.
Yeah.
You need to get out.
Yep.
And I'm only being hard on you, and if you want to call this being hard on you, because I care about you.
This is what I need to know.
You lost him a long time ago. You're still holding on to maybe there's hope. No. You're going to make yourself crazy and sick, mentally and physically. You're already there. That's why I'm being so melodramatic here. You crossed that line a long time ago.
Yeah.
You think there might be a little tiny flame in that campfire? That's nothing but ash and water and ice in that campfire. There is no breathing life back into that thing. You're being emotionally abused. So now the question becomes, I have to shift gears, and how do I do that? You're already in the process of doing that, and it's not going as fast as you want it to, and it's not going exactly the way that you want it to, but as long as you keep day by day making some progress in detachment. Attachment is killing you.
Yeah.
Your mission is to detach with as much damage control as possible. That's your mission. Detach and minimize the damage.
Yeah.
If anybody in here disagrees with what I just said, you're not going to offend me to turn your mic on and give her some other advice.
No, I think I'll say that I agree with you, Mark, and that we're all here to support you, Alexandria. We see the pain that you're experiencing. We know that you're in danger. We care about you a lot, and I believe that you can do this. I believe that you can detach, and that you can get to the other side. And I'm looking forward to seeing it when you get there.
There's an alcohol component of it, and it's very confusing because it's underground. And really the only evidence I have is when he comes, when he stinks.
That's more unpredictability that you need to stop wasting time on.
Yeah.
I'm sure that out of all the things that you know what's going on with him, I bet you there's a huge chunk of stuff that he's doing that you have no clue that would probably shock the pants right off of you. You're only seeing a little tiny fraction of what's going on with him behind your back. And I'm not saying he's a bad guy. I'm not saying he's some kind of piece of shit. So this isn't my being adamant here with you is not an attack on him as a person, but his behavior is dangerous to you and the kids. And he doesn't sound like somebody who is willing to even consider changing that behavior anytime soon. He's so far over the cliff. I don't want to touch that hot potato, and you shouldn't either.
Yeah, my 5-year-old son, who's right here, who he's very mature for his age. He taped his underwear to his belly because he punched his dad a few nights ago. I mean, my son is losing his mind too. So he punched his dad, and his dad's ego was so bruised that he spanked him hard. And when I saw that he had taped his underwear to his belly, I just gathered him in my arms and I said, let's go take a warm bath. And then last night we were driving to swimming lessons and he said, Dad's an asshole. And, what can I say other than, yeah, he is. Yeah.
So, if you don't want to do this for your benefit, do it for the kids' benefit.
Yeah.
Because you have to stay healthy for them.
Yep.
And the only way you're going to do that is get away from him. You're already in decline as we speak.
Yes.
You can't afford to miss another day in decline because there's going to be an end to the decline at some point where you've crossed the line of no return and now you're too sick to even be a mom.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's that serious. Well, all these ladies in here, I'm sure that you are in their thoughts as well as mine. And you have, are you in Margot's group too?
I am. And then I just joined Empower to Change, who is Leslie Vernick, who wrote The Emotionally Destructive Relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I paid a chunk of change. That was my Christmas gift to myself. And she had written a blog on Asperger's. And I'd met some women in her conference that were in the exact same boat.
Okay. Katrina and Georgia and Heidi have sent you some links and sent you some valuable resources that you should probably look into.